The St. Louis Blues shocked the entire NHL world today by offer sheeting not one, but two young RFAs from the Edmonton Oilers. We're going to break down these players, what it means for St. Louis, and what could happen to the Edmonton Oilers if they do end up losing them. We'll get into this later on this episode. Before I start, I just want to give a huge shout out to the almost 4,200 of you guys. We started this channel just over a year ago. Seeing the channel grow, seeing how much you guys enjoy the content has been awesome. If you guys haven't joined the Hat Trick community, make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. We'll be all off season in the next season, giving you updates from around the league. But with that, let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is St. Louis just shocked the NHL. Now, waking up today, I was not expecting to see this all over social media, all over Twitter. Everywhere I looked, this was the headline. We see the St. Louis Blues have tendered offer sheets to Edmonton Oilers defenseman Philip Broberg and to Dylan Holloway. Now, we do see two young pieces for the Edmonton Oilers were left as RFAs. The Oilers could not get these guys signed. Losing out on a young defenseman, a young forward, is going to be a massive hit for the Oilers losing them if they do, but they will get some compensation back. We do see Frank Cervelli break down the offer sheet terms by St. Louis. The first one being defenseman Philip Broberg, 2 years at $4.6 million per year. It is 4.580917. Then you look at Dylan Holloway, another young prospect, a guy that is a forward. Dylan Holloway was offered a 2-year deal at $2.290457. Now, a lot of you guys might be like, Mark, why are you breaking down these exact numbers and not rounding up? But when you do continue to work down, you can see the compensation due is a 3rd-round pick for Holloway and a 2nd-round pick for Broberg. $1 more on AAV for either of the players would have bumped up the compensation. We've seen St. Louis go out, make this offer on two young players with the exact dollar amount to only give up a 2nd and 3rd round pick. These are two young players that might have cost a lot more if a trade was to happen. If the Oilers were looking to ship these guys out, they would have had to give up more. So only losing out, or not even losing up, but pretty much giving up a 2nd and 3rd round pick for two young pieces that you can build around to continue this rebuild in St. Louis would be a massive step. Now, when you do look at this, we did see a bit of foreshadowing with this happening, as St. Louis did make a trade with the Pittsburgh Penguins. They've reacquired their 2nd round pick in 2025 and Pittsburgh's 5th round selection in 2026. They did trade to Pittsburgh a 2nd round pick in 2026 and Ottawa's 3rd round pick in 2025. Now, the biggest thing is when you are giving up draft compensation to get these offer sheets, you need your own pick. Hence why they had to go out and get their 2nd round pick back from the Pittsburgh Penguins to get a guy like Broberg if they do acquire him because of this offer sheet. Offer sheets don't happen in the NHL a lot. We've seen this happen with Kotkaniemi going to the Hurricanes, but and I don't want to quote this, but I don't think we've ever seen one team offer sheet two players at one time in history of the NHL. If I'm wrong, let me know down in the comments because I'd love to know the answer on this. But getting two guys in, like I said, Broberg, a guy like Dylan Holloway, would fit in perfectly within the system. Now, when you are looking at this from the side of the Edmonton Oilers, this is where things get tricky and you look at their cap hit. Right now, the projected cap space for the Edmonton Oilers is minus $7.2 million. Current cap space is the exact same. With this, yes, Evander Kane is a guy that may go on LTIR. This is the most reasonable outcome for this is you place Evander Kane on LTIR, you keep one of these guys, but the biggest issue with this is Evander Kane eventually has to come off LTIR, and being minus 7.2 million in the hole going into next season is going to cause some situations for the Oilers. Maybe a trade is on the works, maybe Evander Kane is on his way out of Edmonton. Either way, the Edmonton Oilers need to figure this out. They need to do something if they want to keep one or both of these guys, and it's going to get quite tricky. Now, obviously, to break down these players, the first one being Philip Broberg. Philip Broberg is a young defenseman, a guy a lot of Oilers fans want in the system, a guy with the top 4 potential. When you do look at Broberg's last season, he only played 12 games in the NHL, 0 goals, 2 assists, 2 points, 6 shots, 2 giveaways, 2 takeaways, a -3, averaging just under 12 minutes time on ice. He's 6'3", 23 years old, from Sweden. The biggest thing with Broberg, he has a lot of developing to do, but this is a guy that is going to be expected, and his projection is a top 4 defenseman which is something the Edmonton Oilers need. Yes, Darnell Nurse is a guy that is regressing quite hard over the past season. Having a guy like Broberg that can step into the system, a guy that can come in, be this young, cheap defenseman, or what they thought would be this young, cheap defenseman, to fill in the Darnell Nurse role, to fill in the role of this top four defenseman as they're trying to make the push to get back to the Stanley Cup final, to maybe win a Stanley Cup, is going to be hard for the Oilers to lose, and especially for only a second. When you look at him, yes, he spent some time with the Oilers, but he spent the majority of the season with the Condors in the AHL. In 49 games, he mustered 5 goals, 33 assists for 38 points. In 10 playoff games this year for the Edmonton Oilers, he put up 3 points. He was in the playoffs for the AHL as well, where he put up 1 point in 2 games. Just being 23 years old, a guy with size, almost at 6'4", a former 8th overall pick in the 2019 draft. This is a guy, like I said, they want to keep, a guy they want within the system, a guy that they want to build with, to continue building this relationship, a team with. Having a guy like Broberg lost to a team for only a second round pick is going to be devastating if it happens, and that's not even where it stops. It continues on to Dylan Holloway. Now, Dylan Holloway is a young forward as well, so the Oilers losing not only a defenseman but a forward in this, if they do not capitalize and go out and match these offer sheets, is going to be hard. In 38 games, 6 goals, 3 assists, 9 points, 56 shots, 9 giveaways. Dylan Holloway is only 22 years old, almost 23. He's a guy that's going to be able to play in your wing, in your bottom 6, in your middle 6, and he does have potential to play in the top 6 or even the top line by the time he hits his peak. A guy like Holloway is a guy that also did play some time in the AHL, lighting it up quite good. In 18 games, 10 goals, 6 assists for 16 points. We've seen him play all 25 games for the Edmonton Oilers in the playoffs and putting up 7 points, 5 goals, and 2 assists during the span. Dylan Holloway, as I said, a former first-round pick, 14th overall, drafted in 2020, is another young winger, a guy that's going to be able to play on the side of McDavid, Draisaitl, RNH. This is a guy that would have fit perfectly, and this is where it gets quite interesting for the St. Louis Blues. These are 2 young players that can fit into your system immediately. A defenseman that can come in and play into your top 4. A guy you can mold to be a top 4 defenseman. Maybe even filling out the top 4 with a guy like Parayko. Building him as your cornerstone defenseman. You have a guy like Dylan Holloway that can come in and play for St. Louis immediately. A guy that can fill in to this top 6, into this middle 6, and be an instant impact piece. If the St. Louis Blues can pull this off, if they can bring in 2 former first round picks, 2 former lottery picks for the price of only a second and a third, this is a major steal for this team. If the Edmonton Oilers are going to look to make a move to do something to keep them, I would not be surprised if this move is going to happen today or early tomorrow, and they're going to have to give up more assets just to move out contracts to keep both of these guys. Oilers fans, I feel sorry for you, but St. Louis fans, if you get these guys, you got a steal from this. What's your guys' thoughts on all this? What's your thoughts on St. Louis going out and offer shooting 2 guys? What's your thoughts on the Oilers? What do you think they're going to do to be able to keep these guys, or do you think they let them walk and keep the capital? Let me know down in the comments. But speaking on comments, we'll get everyone's favorite topic, which is comments of the day. Comment today comes from Wrist Shot, and he says Yamamoto on a 2-year deal on league minimum contract I would consider. This is when Casey did a video just talking about Yamamoto going to the Leafs, possibly on a tryout, getting into this bottom 6. Oilers fans that are watching this, what's your thoughts on Yamamoto? What's your thoughts on everything in this video? St. Louis fans, what's your thoughts on maybe these 2 newly acquired players that you're going to use to just kind of jumpstart this rebuild even more? Let us know down in the comments. While you're down there, leave a like, share this with your friends, and make sure to subscribe. We're trying to reach 5,000 by the start of September, so make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. But like I said, this has been it for this episode. If you enjoy this, make sure to go down and hit everything that I talked about. I've been your host, Mark. Bye, and take care.